Hey everybody, it's Tommy Canaligan. Welcome back to Before the Lights podcast, the show to find out how those in sports, music, and entertainment made their mark. Joining me today is a former boxing world champion in 2 weight classes. He's an author and had a professional record of 73-6-1. He competed from 1982 to 1997. He's one of the world's greatest trainers and was inducted into the International Boxing Hall of Fame. He was the top-ranked 147-pound boxer in 1993. One of the best pound-for-pound fighters in the world, he was known as a scrappy, talented fighter and a master technician. The owner of McGirt Boxing, please welcome to the show, James Buddy McGirt. Buddy, how are you, my friend?
Okay, how's it going?
It's well. You were born in Brentwood, which is, I understand, right by Long Island, New York. What was it like growing up in Brentwood?
Brentwood is in Long Island.
Okay. And how was it growing up there?
You know what? I can honestly tell you, I'm glad I grew up in the era I did, in the neighborhood I did. Because every day was a learning experience.
And where did your name Buddy come from?
My real nickname is Little Bud.
Okay.
My dad was Big Bud. So when I started boxing, a friend of mine just started calling me Buddy. But my family and people I grew up with, to this day, still call me Little Bud.
That's cool. That's cool. How was Buddy McGirt shaped as a young boy?
I was the smallest kid in any sport I went in. I played Little League football. I was 65 pounds soaking wet. The only problem I had was I couldn't get a helmet to fit my head because I had an afro. So every helmet I put on was tight. And I used to get headaches. So I said, this ain't for me.
And then how did you get involved into boxing?
There's a place in my neighborhood called the Brentwood Recreation Center. And Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, they always had something different. Monday through Friday, they always had something different going on. Mainly basketball. And downstairs was boxing and weightlifting. So I was too young to box. They only had pros. So I was trying to be a weightlifter, try to get some muscles. And then one day my friend asked the boxing trainer, when do you have boxing for kids? And the guy said, next week, but you got to be 12 years old. I said, what day next week? He goes, on Saturday, January 17th. I said, that's my 12th birthday. So I joined I was raised Catholic, so that morning I had to go to religion. And after religion, I went to the gym, and the rest is history.
I understand you had 6 siblings, 5 brothers, 1 sister. How did they help mold who you are?
Good question. My oldest brother was kind of like the dad of the house for a while. My second oldest brother was the renegade. My brother before me was a mama's boy. My brother after me was a mama's boy. And then I had my sister.
And were you a mama's boy too?
We all were, but these guys were. Any problem, they call mom. Mommy. The only time I would call my mom is if my second oldest brother, the renegade, if he got on my butt, because he was a renegade, let me tell you. He was that one that was always into something. But at the same time, he was the one that kept me out of the streets.
Was he the one that made sure that you stayed on the straight and narrow?
Yes. And then the funny part is that everyone in the neighborhood knew him and they knew my father. So if they see me somewhere I didn't belong, they would say, does your brother or your father know you're here? And I'm like, no. Then they would tell me, you got 5 minutes to get out of here. Or we're going to rat you out. So I didn't want to deal with them, so I would leave. And my friends would be like, come on, man. I'm like, look, those are 2 men I don't want to deal with.
I understand you share your birthday with Muhammad Ali, Cus D'Amato, and also Tommy Burns. That's pretty cool in the boxing lineage.
Without a doubt.
When did you realize that you were sharing your birthday with some of the legends in the sport?
When I started boxing, one of my friends was like, "You got the same birthday as Muhammad Ali." That's what I needed to hear. I didn't care about anybody else. So I didn't find out about anybody else until later on. So when I was a kid, I said, I got the same birthday as Muhammad Ali. That's all that mattered.
I can understand that for sure. Growing up, you and I are probably around the same age. Ali was and still is the man.
Always will be.
Yes. Were you a big student of the game, buddy?
Yes. When I started boxing, I fell in love with it from day one. I mean, I can't explain it. And I saw it I liked it because it was a way I can use my intelligence to outsmart the next guy. That's what I loved about it the most, being able to outsmart someone. I've always loved that. And anything that I did was outsmarting the next person.
You didn't look at the game as I'm going to try and outslug somebody. You looked at it from as you were a master technician and outthink you.
Exactly. And the day after I started boxing, I wanted to be a trainer. Because I just felt that if I can outthink someone to a point of becoming famous, at the time it wasn't champion, it's about being famous, I thought it would be better to teach someone else to do the same thing.
Will you tell the story? I was doing some research and I didn't catch all of it, but I caught some of it, about a book that you were renting out of the library called Heavyweight Champions. And were you just tearing pages out of it? Is that what you were doing?
That's the first time I took 2 pictures out. And then I returned the book. I went back 2 weeks later. When I took it out, they didn't say anything. So I took out 2 more pictures. So after about a month and a half of that, I go to the library one day. I don't see the book. I even knew the number, like the number section it was in. I knew it all. So I walk up to the front. I said, "Miss, is the book out?" She goes, and she reads something to the desk. She goes, "You looking for this?" So I'm like, "Yeah." She said, "Well, I want you to keep it." I'm like, "Why?" She says, "You took half the pictures out of the book already." And there was nothing. If she'd have came to my house, she would have thrown them all on the wall. So I go home and I take all the pictures out. And my mother goes up to my room and she goes, "What the hell? You stole that book?" I said, "Ma, the lady gave it to me." And my mother's like, "If you take me to the library right now, I could take that lady gave me the book." And then she left me alone. But I never forget it was for the heavyweight champions. And wow, it had a picture. I remember a picture of Marciano hitting Walcott with a right hand when he won the title. A picture of Sonny Liston throwing an uppercut against Floyd Patterson when he was falling. I mean, and there was, oh my God, Jack Johnson and Jim Jeffries. I mean, Joe Walcott, Ezra Charles. I mean, the pictures they had, they were phenomenal, and I used to read the book over and over and over, and then I just started taking out the pictures. And then I just really, really, fell in love with the game, and that's all I wanted to do. And then my mother told me I had to play another year of football. So I was out on the football field one day, and it was like, 25 degrees. And I played defensive back, and I'm saying to myself, I could be in a hot boxing gym right now. So I says, I know what I'm going to do at halftime. So at halftime, I told the coach, "Here's your helmet and your shoulder pads. I'll bring you the pants on Monday." And I went and I walked home. And my mother was like, "What the hell are you doing there?" I said, "Well, I couldn't take that cold. It was just too cold that day. The ground was hard. It rained the night before." I'm like, "Man, I'm not staying out here. I could be home. I could be in a hot boxing gym doing what I do, what I love. The hell with football." And that was it for my football career. Plus, they had a hard time getting me a helmet to fit. So that made it even worse.
Then who are some of your boxing idols growing up besides Ali?
As a kid, it was always Ali because, But then when I got about 13, 14, when I was 13, I met Johnny Saxton and Georgia Joe Walcott. I met them at an amateur boxing show in Long Island. And then I went and started reading about them. And then I just started. After that, I started falling in love with the old fighters. You know what I mean? And fighters from the 30s, 40s, 50s. And then when I was in eighth grade, I read a book on Archie Moore, and then I read a book on Sugar Ray Robinson. And the name of the Sugar Ray Robinson book was called Sugar Ray. The cover was white, and they had like not a sculpture, when a photographer draws, they had a drawing of him. It wasn't a picture, it was a drawing of him on the cover. And I read that book, and I fell in love with it. And then after that, Archie Moore and Ray Robinson, I fell in love with them. And then I just started studying the older fighters more.
It's funny you bring up Sugar Ray Robinson because it just, in my opinion, I think he's the best pound for pound fighter ever.
Even Muhammad Ali said it. There'll never be another like him, ever.
Ali, yes, I get he's one of the greatest, but pound for pound, when anybody brings that up, who's the best ever, right away, I go to Sugar Ray Robinson.
Without a doubt.
You turned pro in 1982 after high school graduation. Buddy, how did you meet El Certo? And if you would explain to my listeners who he was to you.
I turned pro my senior year of high school. It was a Thursday night. This guy, Lou Caravella, who was management at the time, called me up and says, "Hey, kid, I got a fight for you." I said, "Yeah, when?" He said, "Tuesday." So he says, "Are you training?" So I said, "Well, how much they paying?" He said, $200. So I says, "All right, what time you picking me up?" So they, then I went, and it was Al Certo. It was his show, and it was his fighter. I mean, and I was brought in to lose, but I shocked him. Al Certo said that he looked up and saw me still standing, and was like, "Wait a minute, this kid's still here? We think he can fight." And then he told me afterwards I really should have won the fight, but of course, it didn't spring my way. It was a draw. But I fought a guy. This guy was 4-0 or 6-0. And Lamont Hayes coach. And after that, there was an old guy named Dom Amorosa he had 5 guys on the card. 4 won, 1 had a draw. And the one that had a draw was the one that I fought. So this guy, Stuart Weiner, who became a manager, says, "I want that old man to train you." So the old man told him, "All right, bring the kid to Jersey." So we went to Hoboken, New Jersey, and I saw the gym, and so the old man says, "Now listen, if you want me to train your kid, you got to travel from Long Island here if you want me to train you." So Stewie said, "You're gonna have to do it." So I was still in high school. My teacher, my 8th period teacher, would let me leave early so I can catch the train from Long Island to Manhattan. Then I go to Manhattan. I take the PAV train from Manhattan to Hoboken. Then I had like a mile and a half walk to the gym. Then the gym moved to Jersey City. I had to do the same thing, but I had to go to Jersey City instead. And I did that trek for 6 years. But I did it took me 3 hours to get to the gym. So I would get out of school early, take the 1227 train to Penn Station, then take the PAV train to Hoboken, and boom, walk to the gym. And then eventually, a year later, I had to go to Jersey City. And Al and Dominic were partners. And then and my manager, Stewie, and them hooked up. And the rest is history. Old man Dominic, he said, "You got to come here if you want me to train you." So I had no choice. And today, you get fighters complaining about driving 30 minutes to the gym. It took me 3.5 hours, and that's if the trains were on time.
I mean, you talk about dedication. You were determined, as you said, you fell in love with that sport. You were doing whatever it had to get yourself in with the right people.
Prom weekend. Prom was on Friday. Saturday, everybody went to Great Adventure. Sunday was the picnic. Well, Saturday, I was out doing road work. Everybody was going to Great Adventure. I was doing road work. No, Saturday was the picnic. Sunday was Great Adventure. I was doing road work. I had 2 pro fights before I graduated high school. So I had to, and my prom night wasn't that much fun because my girlfriend was pregnant. So that took all the fun out of it. Prom night, everybody looks to get lucky. Shit, I had a kid on the way. So that took the sting out of it. You know?
Yeah, you already had gotten lucky.
Exactly.
After that initial draw, the only draw of your career, you won 28 consecutively. And then in 1985, you win the WBC Continentals America Light Welterweight title with the TKO in the 5th round over Sugar Boy Nardo. What were the feelings like for you, buddy, before that fight in the locker room, knowing you're fighting for the title?
First, I got to tell you, I never received the belt.
You never got the belt?
I won the fight, but I didn't get no belt.
Wow.
So
do they not have a belt?
It was not. I don't listen. Honestly, I couldn't tell you. The fight was in Miami, and we had the fight. I won. But here's the funny part: we leave in Miami because it was Christmas week. We get to the airport in Miami. And I can't remember the name of the airline, but it was a real cheap airline back in 85, 86. We get there, all flights are canceled because of a snowstorm in New Jersey. Luckily, the promoter happened to be at the airport when I was there. And he got me on a flight back to New York. I flew into Newark. I had to fly into Newark. It was a blizzard. And when I got home, everybody was like, yo, where's the belt? I got no clue. I'm the champ, but I don't have the belt. But it was a lot of fun because I got to train in 5th Street Gym where Muhammad Ali trained. That made it fun.
Yeah, that had to be special to train there.
Yeah.
Buddy, in 88, you win the IBF Jr. Welterweight title in a 12-round TKO over Frankie Warren and added the WBC welterweight titles in 91 and 93. My question is, what did you learn versus Frankie Warren the first time? Because that was your first pro loss. And what did you take from that to beat him for the title?
That you're not going to knock everybody out and that you have to make adjustments in fights. So when I lost to him, that was July of 86. I walked from the arena to my hotel, which is like a mile walk. When I got to the hotel, I told my manager, give me another fight. And he's like, what? I says, I can't live with this loss forever. I can't wait 3 or 4 months. I need a fight now. So we get home, and then he called me a week later and says, okay, you're fighting in September. But I was fighting Sal Mamby, who was a former world champion. So I fought him in September of 86. So 2 months later, I'm back in the ring fighting the former champ. And I'll never forget, Randy Gordon called me up. He goes, buddy, I think you're making a big mistake by taking this fight. He goes, I love you, but I got to go with Sal Mamby on this one. So that fight with Sal Mamby made me a better fighter because he was smart and I had to do things that I've never done before. I mean, because he was a cagey veteran.
Mm-hmm.
So after that fight, I knew for sure that in the rematch, I was going to beat Frankie Warren.
It just took you a while to get. Did he not want to fight you, or you guys just got to line up to get the fight again?
No, he was supposed to fight Terry Marsh. And then Terry Marsh, they said, had epilepsy. And then they called me and said, yo, you got the title fight. But you have to go back to Corpus Christi. I said, I don't give a damn if I got to go to his house. Let's do it. So, we did it, and it's something I'll never forget. It's a fight I'll never forget. Because In that fight, that was the only time I had to push my body to the limit. I mean, it's hard to explain it, but physically and mentally, I had to push my body to a limit that most people wouldn't really understand unless you've been in that type of position, unless you've been in that position.
I've not been a fighter, but I'm a long distance runner and had to push my body to a finish line before. So when you get to mentally tired, but the body's not tired, sometimes you got to find something deep to push yourself forward. I mean, there's been times in running, which is different than prize fighting. I'm just trying to run to the next lamppost, just to...
Okay. Question. You ever get tired and then you mentally go into a zone?
Yes.
That after the race, it takes you a few hours, maybe even a day to come down. That's how it was with me in the Frankie Warren fight. I knew I won. I knew I was champ, but my mind was still in that zone of the fight. And it took me a few days when I got home. It took me a while to really come down. And when people were like, yo, you're all right. I looked like I was in a daze, but I wasn't in a daze. I was just, because it got to a point in the fight where I mentally had to take myself to that next level. If not, I would have got my ass kicked. So I had to.
Hopefully you got the belt for that one.
I went home with the belt. But when I beat Simon Brown, I didn't go home with the belt. I had to wait until like a month later. Then they had a big thing at Madison Square Garden for me. Then they gave me the belt.
When you bounced back to win the 91 welterweight title from Simon Brown, did the fights that you had leading up to that, like the hard one with Meldrick Taylor, were those experiences and fights for you continuing you to hone your craft and know what to do and what not to do?
Yeah. It made me, after I lost the title, it made me appreciate it more. Because when I won the championship, everything was happening so fast. And, when you're young and you dream of having fancy cars, money, it was a dream come true. It wasn't like a dream. It was a dream come true. And I was in the fast lane. I thought it wasn't going to end. But I was sadly mistaken because the shit ended quick. So it was a lesson for me. It was a lesson to make me understand who was real and who wasn't real. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And then, so I went for the title the second time. When I won the title the second time, I had a whole different attitude, about being a world champion. I knew not to rush things. I understood the fact that you're champ now, everybody's looking to knock you off. When I was champ the first time, I didn't think that way. But the second time, when I was at training camp, I knew everybody was there to kick my ass. So, it's all a learning experience, but it was a great experience for me. And losing because I learned from it. So when I came back the second time and I got the title fight and won it, I understood and appreciated it more.
Buddy, after you look back and you win 2 world champions, 2 titles, did you ever look maybe back to those people that thought maybe you were too small to be in the game and you look what you've overcome and I'm a 2-time champion?
I didn't look back at the people because they're always going to be naysayers. You're always going to have negative people. I looked at it as, how can I put it? That I accomplished my dream. Something that, not too many people can say they've done. Things I dreamed of as a kid, of having and doing. Boxing enabled me to do that, gave me that opportunity. So I felt that to me was bigger than winning the championship. You understand? Mm-hmm. So winning the championship is great. Yes, something they can never take from you, indeed. But being able to do things that, as a kid, you dream of Excuse me. I get emotional. My biggest thing was to always take care of my mother. You know what I mean? So, and I wanted her to be proud of me. That meant more to me than me winning the championship, was making her proud. You know?
And I'm sure you did that.
And, so doing that to me was bigger than winning any championship in the world.
Completely makes sense.
You know what I mean? So, like, when I won the championship, my mother kept my belts at her house till she passed away. She wouldn't let me take them home. I mean, she had them up on the wall in her living room until she passed away 4 years ago. Then I went and got them. But that, to me, was like the greatest feeling in the world, was watching her enjoy my success. You understand? It makes sense?
Absolutely, it does. You know, it's something that's deep down, I think, in all of us that want to make our parents proud of who we've become. And when you see that, it's an emotional time, as you explain, that you can't explain the feeling, and there's no way to replace it.
Right, exactly. So, like when I won my first world championship, I was still living at home. I was scared to tell my mother I wanted to move. Everybody's like, yo, you should move. I'm like, I want to move, but I was afraid to tell my mother. I didn't know how to tell her. Because I felt if I did, it would upset her. You know what I mean?
And how was she with it when you finally told her you were moving?
Oh, you know, it's funny. It was a year later, I had an argument with my brother. So I used that as my excuse to move. But I had custody of my son. And my son was living at my mother's with me. So I went back to get my son. My mother said, what do you want? And she gave me that look like, you're not taking James out my house. So I said, I got to take James to the bus stop for school. She goes, and when you pick him up, you bring his ass right back here. My son's mother calls me. She goes, you better go get him. I said, I tell you what you do, Yvonne. You go get him and bring him to my house. She said, hell no, I ain't going to Mom's. I said, thank you. Then one of my brothers was like, you should go get your son. I said, I tell you what you do. You go get him and drop him off. If you go get him, I said, if you go get him, I'll meet you on the corner. He's like, man, the hell with that. I'm like, thank you.
Nobody was going to get him.
Nah, nobody was going to my mom's house. Nobody was messing with us. So that was just always been like my thing, you know, growing up, and just always wanting to do for her, because I've seen how much she sacrificed for us, you know, and she gave up a lot for us. And so I always wanted to get at that point in my life and in her life where she can go to bed not worrying about having to pay a fucking bill. She can go to bed not worrying if her car's going to start in the morning. Sorry for cursing.
It's okay.
If she was going to have enough oil in the house to last her through the winter, you know. So those things there that I said, I got to change that. And God blessed me with that opportunity. So I wanted to buy her a house. She didn't want a house. So I got her house remodeled. You know, I wanted to buy her a new car, not a used car, a new fucking car with a warranty on it. You know, she didn't have to take to the nearest mechanic in the neighborhood, what we call the shady tree mechanics. You know, they fix your car under a shady tree in the backyard.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that was just like my biggest thrill was like, here, give her the keys and say, it's yours. You know what I mean? So that's it in a nutshell, you know. That's all I wanted to do, and God blessed me to do that. So I feel that's the biggest victory and championship for me was being able to do that.
Before I ask you the next question, today's show is brought to you by Only 3 Snack Crisp. It's one of the most delicious, healthy chips available to snackers today. Spelt flour, sea salt, and spring water is all you'll find this delicious 130-calorie treat. They are perfect with your favorite dip, on the go, in between meals, and as a bonus, they are vegan-friendly too. Order your 3-pack bundle today at only3snacks.com. That's only3snacks.com. Buddy, you retired in 1997. Why or what made you decide that it was time for you to walk away from the ring?
Well, to be honest with you, in 1994, I fought a kid named Pat Coleman. And I beat him. And they said to me, guess what? You got the rematch with Pernell Whitaker. When they told me that, I broke down, started crying. And my wife's like, what's wrong? I said, I don't want to fight anymore. And she's like, what? I said, I don't want to fight no more. And she said, buddy, I mean, this is what you wanted. I said, you know what? I said, when I got hurt in 93, they wrote me off. Then I found out my manager sold me out. They knew I was injured, but they lied to me and had the doctors tell me I wasn't. I only had tendonitis. Then they told me I'll never fight again. Then they told me I couldn't come back. In 1 year, I fought Nick Rupert, James Hughes, Livingston Bramble, Kevin Pompey, Pat Coleman, and then I got the rematch with Pernell. In 1 year, I got that. Yeah, so now I get to where I wanted to be, and they told me I had it. I felt like that was my goal. I did it in 1 year. I did it in 1 year. So the desire left that day. That day in Villa Roma in August 1994, that day, the desire for me and the hunger for me to fight left me, and it left me for good. After that, I just went through the motions. And then I retired in 95. And then I came back. And then in 97, just wasn't there anymore. It wasn't there since 94. I was just winning fights on my experience. But the desire wasn't there. It was gone. I would try to get it back. But the reality of it was, once it's gone, it's gone. Mm-hmm. It's like we're the first ones to know, but the last ones to admit it.
Makes sense.
And that's what I was going through. It was a tough time in my life, if you want to know the truth, because I didn't want to fight anymore. And I was getting these letters from this man that kept telling me I had to fight. My uncle, Uncle Sam.
Uncle Sam had something to say about it for a little while.
He's like, you're not retiring now, young fella. You owe us some money. So I was like Tom Hanks in Catch Me If You Can. I was like, damn, man. So Uncle Sam was sending me these letters saying, young man, you can't retire right now. And he was right. I couldn't. They was on me like a cheap suit, man.
Now that you've been a trainer as well, what do you enjoy more? Fighting back in the day when you enjoyed it, or training?
It's a tough question. I can't answer that. I really can't, because the greatest times of my life when I was young was when I was in training camp.
Okay.
I had a peace of mind, and I was doing what I loved. And that's that was just me. That was my life. You know, boxing was my life. As a fighter, now as a trainer it is, but as a fighter, you know what I mean? When I was away training, I had a peace of mind. I was in my own world. You know, and now as a trainer, it's similar. You got to get in your own world, but you have to do different things. You got to be like a counselor. You got to be a psychiatrist. You got to be the mother, father, cousin, aunt, brother-in-law, father-in-law, the wife's sister. You got to be everything with these guys because they go through so much BS. And then as a trainer, you got to deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to, but you have to. You know what I mean? You got to say, yo, what's wrong? They like, what are you talking about? Be like, something's wrong. You're not yourself today.
What about this way then, buddy? What is it, training versus teaching?
Oh, that's easy. Anybody can train. Anybody can get somebody in shape. I mean, but now, what are you going to teach them to do when the bell rings? I mean, if you train a dog, you got a good dog. But if you teach them, you got a better dog. I mean, any animal.
Yeah.
If you train them, okay, yeah. But if you teach them while you're training them, then you got a better animal. So, but the problem is, there's not too many teachers left in the game.
Great point.
I mean,
Great point.
It's not, today, they base a trainer on how he holds the mitts. If he holds the mitts, he's a trainer. No, anybody can hold the mitts. The mitts is the best choreography since Michael Jackson's Thriller. You know what I mean? Because I'm telling you what to throw and I'm prepared for it. So, I mean, what's so hard about that? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But to get in a fight, in the middle of a heated fight, and I tell a fighter, hey, we got to do this, 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 and this. And then the next round, you got to switch up. Now, who can do that? This is the only sport where a guy can stand in the gym for a month, learn how to do the mitts, and become a trainer. And it's like, it's crazy. It's like this. This is, I'll tell you how bad, in my eyes, how boxing has gotten. When I go to fill out an application for a boxing license, now they know who I am. But you know one of the questions are on there? What are my qualifications? Now, I say that to say this. How the hell does a YouTuber get a fight winning his commission? Every time I go, buddy, here, fill out this form. What are your qualifications? You ask me my qualifications, but yeah, you got these jackasses who never box a day in their life fighting on TV. And listen, I'm not mad at anybody for making money, but you're taking away from the fighter who's been struggling for the last 5 or 10 years. That, when you really think about it, how many fighters really, really get the shot at the big money? Out of all the boxers in this world, how many get the shot?
Not many. It's a low number.
I mean, it's like, when I asked my friend, how many college players make it to the NFL? Because you'd be surprised how low the number is. So in this game, there's guys, I've seen guys out here busting their hump, fighting, busting their hump, never make more than 10 grand. Then you get these jackasses coming on here, these YouTubers making millions of dollars, and these other guys are still struggling. It's like, yo, I mean, why? I understand everybody wants to make money. No problem with that. But what about the man who's really, really putting his ass on the line every day? Goes to work a 9 to 5, goes to the boxing gym, and he's spending 90% of their away from his family to try to make things work or to try to get that one big shot. It's crazy, man.
It is. Buddy, you've trained and been involved in some of the best fights ever. I mean, Antonio Tarver, the Gotti War trilogy, the list goes on. Can you even answer a question of what's the toughest fight you've been involved in as a trainer?
Wow. No, I really, really, the toughest. The toughest I would have to say was, it was tough in a different aspect. When God bless Max Dadashev, that fight with him when he passed away, because, I mean, at one point I was hard on myself, I'm saying I should have stopped it around sooner. But I got a call 3 days later from someone in Moscow that said that he shouldn't have been fighting. He had failed the brain scan in Moscow. That's why he wasn't fighting in Russia. So that was hard, but in a different aspect. But now back as far as the fight goes, I'm going to say, I don't know, because I had the Gaddy Ward trilogy. I had the Tarver Roy Jones trilogy. Going against Roy Jones is not easy.
No.
Getting ready for Roy is not easy, So I just, I just thank God for every opportunity that I've been given as a trainer, whether it's a 4-round fight or a 12-round fight. For every opportunity, I thank God for.
You've been mentioned with the likes of some of the greats in the game as training, such as Georgie Benton, Eddie Futch. What does it mean to you to be in the same sentence with some of those guys as being one of the greatest trainers in this game?
That is the greatest feeling in the world, because to me, these guys were geniuses. And they understood the game. I've learned so much from them that it's incredible. I've learned that a trainer should study their fighter every day, watch him every day in the gym. Know when he's running on all cylinders. Know when he's not running on all cylinders. Oh, he's just having a bad day. So you look at him and say, okay. Like, for instance, today I had a guy sparring today. Can I say him moving? So, ended the round. I said, what happened? He goes, what are you talking about? I said, something's wrong. He's like, how do you know? I'm like, I'm not an idiot. He goes, my back a little bit, but I'll be fine. I said, well, if you're going to finish like that, the way you just ended, I'm not going to let you go anymore. He goes, buddy, I'll be fine. I'll show you. And he went out and he showed me. I said, don't go crazy. But he went out and he showed me. And he was like, yo, how did you? I said, I can tell by your body language, man. So I just think if you got 6 guys every day, you got to study each one of these guys every day. Their attitudes when they walk in the gym, their mindset. It's like, I'm telling you. So when I leave and I go home, people are like, why are you tired? I'm like, yo, because all day my mind is gone. Mm-hmm. You got to see when your fighter walks through the door, what his mindset is, what his attitude is like. And now you got to figure out a way, if he's in a bad mood, or if he's mad at the world or his girlfriend, his wife, now you got to figure out how you got to get him to change his attitude to get through this workout.
Last question before we wrap up is this. On the heels of talking about great trainers and how you study your fighters, could you explain to my listeners, when you, as a fighter, when you get in the ring, you're not only fighting the guy across the ring from you, but you're also going against his trainer, because you have to understand what his trainer has taught him.
That was my thing with Georgie Benton. I have 6 losses. 4 of my losses were the Georgie Benton trained fighters. So when we was at a press conference,
unfortunately, due to some technical difficulties, we lost some connection with Buddy McGirt, but we want to thank Buddy for being on the show today. If you would, join us on Patreon. Get the extra 5. Go to patreon.com/beforethelights. This show is listener supported, so if you would, please go to the website, beforethelightspod.com, and click on the donate page. Anything you can help always benefits the show. Follow us on Instagram at Before the Lights Podcast. Thank you for listening to Before the Lights. I'm Tommy Canale. And until next time, everybody, a salute, a chin chin.